New Trend Society, the BDX Marketing Podcast with Benjamin Dietering.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the New Trend Society podcast. It's been a year, it's been a wild ride, and I'm very, very happy. We had so many great guests all over the world. We had a couple of great live episodes. One of my favorite ones was the one we recorded at Neuhaus right here in Venice Beach. We did another one with the boys of Parlano. We did one with American Express. We did one in Hamburg, somewhere in German, somewhere in English, and now we changed the podcast finally fully to English. So for our dear German audience, thank you very much for tuning in and listening in another language. But as we're growing and we want to reach a broader audience and want to make the podcast accessible to people worldwide, I think it was the right decision. Even though, to be honest, it was tough and we had a little bit of a hit on listeners. But I'm happy to take that as it gives us the possibilities to bring in amazing people like our guest today. He doesn't speak German, unfortunately.
I won't even try.
He is an amazing photographer. He's a director. But most of all, I think he's a very gifted community creator.
Thanks, man.
And we're going to talk about that, and happy to have you on the podcast. Jesse Rodriguez.
Thanks for having me, bro. We finally made it happen.
Yeah, I think we texted back and forth like 5 or 6 dates, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's been 6 months of planning this, and I'm looking forward to having a good conversation.
It's actually like a typical LA date, kind of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, we should meet. We should grab a drinks, and then it's going back and forth. Oh, I'm out of country. I'm in New York. I do this. I do that.
Yeah.
Speaks for your lifestyle.
There you go.
My lifestyle.
That's the creative LA experience. 100% is connecting with someone, and you have the best intentions, and then it's like, all right, let's schedule it in from 6 months from now.
Oh yeah. So Jesse, I found you probably 12 months ago.
Okay.
On Instagram, and I saw like, oh, this guy's posting hot stuff from Los Angeles, and a lot of amazing landscape, city pictures, videos, reels, drone shots, and not the stuff you usually see. Of course, there's sometimes a little bit of Griffith Observatory and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there are also some locations that most of the people don't know or didn't know before, unless until you blew it up.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit, how did you start out, and describe a little bit the content and the photos and videos you're creating on your channel.
Totally. Yeah. So I grew up here in the Southern California area, Los Angeles area specifically, since I was a kid. And so it was just normal to run around and explore all the time. And this was way before I ever picked up a camera or thought about content creation. It was probably way before TikTok or Instagram even existed, right? But growing up, it was just a thing to go out and explore, go to different locations and find different views and kind of the urban X feel, right? You hear about that where you're getting into new spaces.
What part of town did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up predominantly in Long Beach, like the South Bay area there.
Yeah.
And then just all over different parts of LA. And now my wife and I are actually in Orange County, like I was telling you before, in Huntington Beach. But growing up, it was every weekend we would go somewhere, right? It was exploring. My family is very active in that way, and I love that. But yeah, got to know all these spots and just became kind of natural to explore. So much so that when the pandemic happened and it was really quiet, there was nobody on the road, there was no traffic, I was like, this is a great time to go out with my camera and explore and kind of photograph these places, record these places. And the rest is history. So I picked up photography at the beginning of the pandemic just as a hobby. Just because I enjoyed it. I always liked taking pictures with my phone and just kind of, having it. I didn't have an Instagram. I didn't share it with anyone. But the pandemic gave me a lot of time on my hands. And I was like, well, let's just do something. So I started an Instagram and ran around with an old Canon Rebel TL1 or something. Dude, just like the worst Canon camera ever. It was my parents'. It was like in a drawer. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And I borrowed it from them and would just run around creating photos. And I would post them, stuff that I thought, I was proud of, and people seemed to like it. And so my wife and I, at the time, she was just my girlfriend. We would just explore just all over the place. And I naturally went back to some of these places that I had explored as a kid or as a young guy. And with a fresh kind of lens, right? Literally and figuratively, a fresh pair of eyes.
What kind of places were these?
So it was rooftops. It was abandoned. I think of like an abandoned zoo. It was all of these different places that no one had ever really been there. It was an abandoned mall at one point, stuff like that. And even just going to familiar places like Griffith Observatory or the Santa Monica Pier and looking for unique like perspectives on it, right? I remember one time when I was younger, I like climbed on top of one of the lifeguard towers there at Santa Monica Pier and got this like really compressed shot, like me sitting on top of it with the Ferris wheel came in real close. I had never seen it done before, but I used to do it all the time when I was a kid. And so it was now doing those things and photographing them, recording them. And I loved it. And people fell in love with it. I think they really enjoyed it, which was kind of surprising. I didn't expect for it to take off at all.
Why do you think it resonates so good with people?
I think Los Angeles content is already semi-viral. I think people already love it. I think when you can create something that's colorful, bright, it catches your attention. I think that's something that just sells very easily. I also think when you can provide how do I say it, like a personal touch to it. Because something like landscapes or experiences like that, it's pretty just cut and dry. Kind of know what you're looking at and then you move on and scroll away. But when you're able to kind of describe the place or put your artistic touch on it or even put yourself in front of the camera and describe what you're doing, show yourself doing it, I think that's what resonates with people. I think they're looking for just that extra, maybe second or third layer of connection. Everyone likes a good photo. Everyone likes a good video. But it feels like when there's that personal touch, that's where you get the loyalty from, where someone will choose to kind of follow you on that journey.
Yeah, I think it's actually there are a couple of more angles we can tackle on. I think one other angle is definitely for people who are not in Los Angeles, right? Who maybe visited, who are tourists, or like basically everybody. It's one of the most popular cities in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so if you see it, it's like, oh shit, I want to go there. If I'm next time on vacation, if I ever want to go on vacation here, if I ever travel here, I want to check out this place. And people save it. So there's this concept of stuff that we tell to our clients when we do like consulting or so. It's like call to save. It's not anymore like call to action, right? Or please comment or whatever, right? It's basically call to save, and as it's so relatable, and people say, "Oh, Griffith Observatory, or that cool rooftop, or this, or that, just that angle of perspective." Like, okay, I'm gonna save that for later. And another thing is, I was at a conference yesterday. It's called Production Summit. I talked to a guy who was in AI in Hollywood and development, whatever. So he said there are now 350 million people creating content, like photographers, videographers, and all that. And I always wondered, because when I started photographing 14, 15 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And back then it was a niche, right?
Yeah.
So and
it wasn't cool yet.
It wasn't cool, right? It was like, okay, it was all right. It wasn't uncool, but it wasn't the thing, right? Now it's like, oh, you're a photographer. What the fuck, right? Can I get your number?
Totally.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And now there's so many more people who wanna know how it's been done, and that's also why all these tutorials go so viral, right? Like a tutorial how to, I don't know, do a drone shot, or how to do that flip and jump and
editing
transition,
and all
whatever,
those things,
right? Yeah. So that's super wild. And the third thing is, I think you also found a lot of cool locations that not that many people knew about, right?
Yeah.
And some of these were like the rooftops and all that. So how do you do the location scouting?
Yes, a lot of that was, again, just when I was young. We had all the time in the world, so we'd go out and explore and stumble onto places. We had nowhere to be. We'd be out for hours walking around, and let's walk down this street and see what we're going to find. And so a lot of that I definitely did when I was younger. But even now, when I location scout, I think I'm just looking for something that's different.
Do you look them up on Google Maps?
Yeah, Google Maps. I definitely. I use Google Maps, but there's nothing like actually going out and setting aside time with no expectation that I'm going to find something. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go out tomorrow night for sunset. I'm going to start at 3:00 and I don't have dinner till 7. So I'm going to take a couple hours and I'm just going to see what I find. It could be a parking structure. It could be a great rooftop. It could just be a classic or a unique take on a classic spot. And those are some of the most special moments when you find something. It's like I've walked down the street a million times and I never thought to look this way, or to walk up this flight of stairs, or, to talk to this security guard at the front door and say, hey, what's in this building? And, oh, okay, you're going to take me. Like all of those kinds of things. It's so unique every single time, and you never know kind of what that holds. So
can you tell us about like maybe 3 of your favorite locations or 3 locations that people should know about?
Yeah.
Also, without leaking too much.
Yeah.
I know some of the locations are, especially as they're a little bit hidden, or it's like not that easy to reach, or so, or not that legal to reach.
Sure,
so, right?
Yeah. There's an interesting blurry line in the middle there too. One of my favorite spots is Elysian Park, right above like Dodger Stadium. It's just a classic.
Also like Palms View, right?
That's the Palm Street view, the Palm Tree line street.
I think if you put it in on Google Maps, if you put in Palms View, Los Angeles, that's it. If you want to check it out.
So many different views there. There's Angels Point View. There's a water tower that you can climb on top of and just get a really high view. There's another view. I don't know if it has a specific name, but it's right there. You can see Dodger Stadium, the whole parking lot downtown behind it. Such an amazing spot. And so that's one of my favorite places to go. When I see that the sunset's looking really pretty, I'll just kind of run out to Elysian.
It's really amazing. I love it. And I'm actually curious. There is also the police academy right next to it, right?
You'll hear shooting.
So you're shooting all the time.
But they're training.
You're in the hood or so, right? But you can actually, it's weird. Like even as it's so scenic, right? And you have the whole skyscrapers, you have Dodger Stadium and everything close by. You can fly a drone there, right? I think it's also legal.
You can.
So that's pretty wild, and you should. That's definitely a spot that everybody should check out.
Yeah, I've shot a bunch of campaigns there, and I never get tired of it because it's so huge.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of my favorites. I got another 2. I'd say Ascot Hills Park is that iconic park where you see the fence and it kind of breaks in the middle and you can see the skyline.
You also did a community meetup there,
I did
right?
a meet there, photo meet where we just had a bunch of photographers come out from the community and just hang out and shoot sunset with some models, and there was some brands represented. I love that spot because it's in East LA and it's a little bit higher and further away from the city. So you really can just kind of, it feels quieter. It doesn't feel like you're in the madness of, downtown. And then one more that's a bit closer to downtown LA, I'd say is Ela Park, ELA Park. It's tucked away in a small community in East LA. And it's tricky to get there. So I'll give you the name and then you can kind of figure out how to get there on your own with Google Maps. But you park in a residential area and you kind of walk through this neighborhood. You can only really get to it.
ELA Park? Okay.
ELA Park.
Check it out.
And it's this iconic shot of these palm trees right in front of downtown. And it's just classic.
Okay, I
see it in a bunch of movies.
Wow, that's wild. That's wild. Check it out.
There you go. That's the spot. And without exploring and really setting aside maybe an hour to find it, a lot of people will just give up and you'll totally miss finding a cool spot like that. So those 3 spots, they're all just very different for me. I love shooting them. I love doing campaigns there if I can, but also just kind of going and relaxing. And I visited each of those when I was younger too. So it's kind of special.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah. But for me, as I just moved here like 2 years ago, right? I've been here on vacation a couple of times before. So, but it's so different if you actually live here, right? And when I remember it like it was yesterday when I moved here, it was January, like I had nothing to do. I had somebody else in charge of my German company and the business here didn't exist then.
Wow.
So my plate was empty. My calendar was empty. There was a couple of lunch dates or running or so, right? But it was basically empty.
Yeah.
And I was just able to just go out and explore stuff. And it was so wild to see how many possibilities there are. And especially besides the common knowledge, right?
Yep.
Everybody knows Griffith Observatory, but not that many people know that there's a small forest behind the Berlin Forest.
Yep.
Because LA's partner city is Berlin, which is funny. You have another 6 view from there, and if you go a little bit higher, there's Captain's Roast, right, or Captain's View. I think that's what it's called.
Further up ahead
Captain's
of it.
Rest, I think, right? I don't know, whatever, something with Captain.
Yeah.
And all these different hills in the Hollywood Mountains. It's so amazing, right?
Yeah, growing up, I think it's readily available to you. You can kind of go at any time and you can go one week, and if you miss some stuff, you can always go again next week or next month.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, when they come on vacation, I think to LA, they don't get that full experience.
I think that's a big difference between Los Angeles and New York.
Yeah.
New York, you have everything served on the silver table, on the silverware.
Yeah.
You just go out and whatever happens, you have nice views. There's skyscrapers and all these, good views and all
Totally.
that. And in LA, you have to be actually a little bit more, you have to explore and you have to take your time. It's not a city if you check out the travel guide or so, it will say go to Hall of Fame, Walk
Sure,
of
the
Fame,
Walk
go
of
to
Fame.
this, go to that. And it's like everything you should. I mean, you can do it. It's nice to see it once.
Kind of boring at one
yes,
point.
yes. But if you want to see the cool stuff, you actually have to do your homework.
Absolutely.
It's not too easy, I think.
Yeah, and even going to those, like you mentioned, Griffith Observatory, there's a really cool hidden bench. If you actually walk right up to the observatory, you hang a left, there's this small little dirt path and it opens up and there's a bench there in the middle of nowhere and you can see all of LA, all of LA County. If you go the opposite way and walk up the trail, there's an iconic shot where you can get the observatory lined up right with, I think it's the street Western.
Okay.
And it's compressed in. And it's just like a head-on shot of Griffith. I've done stuff like that, and I didn't find those places for years.
Yeah.
And there's only a few people that kind of really know about them or ever really photograph them. So that's the exciting part, is sometimes even going to a very popular spot and finding a new angle or a new composition that you haven't really seen before.
And you're the person making this available to everyone, kind of, right?
I try. Yeah. I love helping people out when it comes to, if they have, questions about places. I also love encouraging people like, hey, you should also go out and explore for yourself.
Yeah.
Like I'll point you in the right direction, but probably the most fun part of it is that research and going out and setting aside the day and the evening for it. And then when you find it, I mean, there's just no better feeling. Whenever I get on a rooftop, it's been a little while since I've done it, but there is no better feeling when you get to the top and the door's unlocked and you walk up and you're like, nobody else is here. And 1% of the people that live in LA, maybe not even that, have ever seen this view. Like there's something really special about it. And I love to help people like, hey, go out and do it. Go out and look for yourself. And I'll kind of give you some pointers along the way. So
I think it's also about chasing, right?
Mhm.
And that's a thing where I had probably some trouble within the last year or so. Because when I get creative, my my habit is sometimes just check out stuff that's on Instagram, or you just want to redo stuff.
right. Yeah.
But actually, you should just go out and start with a blank paper, like a blank paper at all. Like just and don't think like, okay, I saw, and I think both ways of creativity have a justification, right? So it's also all right to, okay, I check out 10 reels and I redo 3 of them, right?
There you go.
Or
Yeah.
I mix them up, because even if you redo them, you always have your own twist, and it will be always a little bit different, and that's fine, right?
Yeah.
But if you actually start from scratch and just go out and explore, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was starting shooting, and I shot a lot of people and portrait photography with a lot of models and all that. That's how I learned it, right?
Yeah.
I never had any inspo. I just did it, right? I was like,
Wow.
okay, I don't know, like maybe it looks nice if she sits there or lays there
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was actually pretty interesting, and I like that you encourage people to do that.
Yeah. And, for me, and when I first started my photography journey, I had a couple people that I really looked up to. And in the beginning, I would copy their work.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I see the photo, I see the composition, I'm going to go and I'm going to copy it. Like almost exactly. And it was very short-lived. I didn't do that for very long, because I very quickly realized I'm a creative person. And even if they did it the best, I still have to try it on my own with my own spin. And that gave me so much more satisfaction at the end of the day, when I was able to look at my work and say, like, that was my idea and I created it. And hopefully the next time I do it, it'll be even better and better. And it kind of compounds upon itself. So yeah, everyone learns differently. I think, I have a lot of people that interact with me that are just starting as photographers, videographers, content creators, whatever you want to call them. And they'll have a bunch of questions, and I'll always give advice, and I'll always end it with, but hey, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Like, art is subjective. And so you can go out and create whatever you'd like. And if you think it's beautiful, then it's beautiful. Right. And I think it's empowering to do that for people, because people said that to me and it changed my whole perspective on it. And yeah, I think that's, as creative people, like, we need to be reminded of that. Like, we can go out and do something for ourselves, make it unique, and kind of build that personal brand around what you do. And then it inspires other people. And before you know it, you have people coming to you and asking you for advice. And it's like, man, I just started, but hey, okay, like, I'm here. And so that's always been really special.
That's cool. I want to talk about that a little bit later. I have some more questions on the rooftop situation and all that.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by that. I love it. Also, what's the one? Flower Street.
Hope and Flower.
Hope and Flower, yeah.
I just leaked it. Hope and Flower.
Oh shit!
No, yeah. Ask
so
away.
That's definitely a cool thing. I've been there a couple times. There's some wild videos on YouTube, right?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen the one where a person jumps into the pool?
Yes, I have.
That was pretty sketchy.
You know what's funny? I'm going to show you something here on my TikTok. I actually went to post a video about that specific rooftop on TikTok, and I got a community violation guideline because they were just like, this looks, in
dangerous.
It looks dangerous and unsafe. And I was like, you're maybe not wrong, maybe I shouldn't post it. Yeah. There's so many amazing spots, and it changes. The rooftop scene in LA, without giving away all the spots, but the rooftop scene in LA is changing every week, every month, every year. So the rooftops that are open or accessible now that you can kind of get up on are not the same ones that you could a few months back. And that's the exciting part, is finding out which ones are available. And it takes time. It takes you walking up a flight of stairs and getting to the top, and the door's locked.
Yep.
And it takes you going, and now you have to talk to security, and they're like, hey, what are you doing here? And you get escorted out, and it's okay, well, on to the next spot. But it's such a thrill. Like I said, when you get to the right one and it's open, there's no better feeling.
It's wild, right?
Yeah, so wild.
I think my YouTube feed is basically, it's people sleeping outdoors 7 nights without anything, right? People do train surfing, people climbing cranes and rooftops and all that stuff. It's like, it's a wild mix of stuff that's always on the edge.
It's entertaining. People love it. And I think a lot of people actually want to try to do it, which is pretty cool. People actually want to get out of the house and go outside and do things. And so I relate to that, because there were moments where, I would see people doing it, and I was like, man, I want to do that one day, or I want to capture content in that way. I want to go and explore these places. I want to travel. And to now be able to do that and incorporate it into my kind of flow. If it's weekly, monthly, whatever that looks like, I have a routine and do that. It just brings me so much creativity and peace, and it's just like being out in the open air there's nothing better.
But I like that you actually take yourself the time to do that.
Yeah.
So either thing, I always pack my calendar and it's full, right?
Me too.
It's sometimes I feel bad when it's empty. It feels like I don't have anything to do, right?
Yeah.
But how do you make that time to actually go out and explore?
Yeah, this is a good question, and not one that I will ever say I'm a professional at. When it comes to managing time, I'm the same way. A lot of creative people are, especially when you start a business or when you want to start making money doing stuff like this. It's very easy to pack the calendar and just stay busy and actually lose touch with what kind of started you off on this journey. And so for me, one of the things that I realize is doing it with friends is a big deal. When I'm able to get creative and go out and explore, not just by myself, but maybe with a friend or two, there's a little bit of like a commitment there. We text about it. Okay, Friday night, we're all going to hang out, get some dinner and go explore. Now there's accountability where someone's going to go with me and I can't let them down. I'm not going to cancel. I'm not going to fill that time with something else. But also there are times where I go out just by myself, which are always the hardest to schedule in, but I have to. So at least once a month. Preferably 2 to 3 times a month.
I mean, you also need some new content, right?
You need new content. Yeah, you can't keep recycling stuff forever. And so I build that into my routine. And sometimes it changes, right? I'll only do it once. Maybe I'll do it twice. Sometimes I do it 4 or 5 times, depending on how busy the month is. But every single time that I go out, I never regret it. Literally, not once have I ever regretted it. Even if it's raining and cloudy and there's no pretty sunset.
Right?
It's like, wow, this is a journey and this was so much fun. And I got to go in the car and get outside the house and get away from the laptop and the phone and just go create. That's why I started it all in the beginning. It's probably why a lot of us started content creation, because we kind of fell in love with the process. And so for me, it's not very free flowing to just go out and do it. I have to schedule it in. I live by a calendar. I have my notes app and my Asana and all these different things that I use, but I make sure that even if I'm going to be really organized and structured in that way, I schedule in times of rest or times of, going out and exploring.
That's cool. I think I should do more of that.
Yeah,
again.
You should, man. It'll just bring you happiness. It lowers my stress. I'm in the middle of, especially this month, I have like 4 different campaigns going right now.
Wow.
And which is a great thing, but I realize like my stress level is so high. So it's like, okay, it's time to go out, right? Like in those moments, it's time to disconnect just for a couple hours.
Especially the times where it's super busy, right?
Yeah.
I realized that about myself. If I have a day where it's so packed, or when my email inbox is killing me,
Yeah.
sometimes I just stop and then I go out. It's like, okay, that's it for today.
Totally.
And the next day you come with a fresh mind, and within 2 hours, everything's done.
Absolutely.
Because you're like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, it's setting those boundaries for yourself, and only you know how you work, and I know how I work. We have to be really honest with ourselves and set those boundaries, and then hold ourselves to them. Right, that's the hard part. So yeah, everybody works differently. I think you and I are probably the same in that, where we get stressed. It might be a good time to wrap it up, disconnect. Put the phone on do not disturb, close Instagram, whatever it is. Like you said, close your email, and just go out and do something. Like someone once told me a term, and they said, like, this is very life-giving. And I was like, wow, that's a great way to describe it. Like, what are those things that I'm doing in my routine that give me life, that give me energy, that give me creativity? If it's hanging out with friends, with my wife, or creating content.
Let's talk about community. You are setting up these community meetings, photographer get-togethers and all that. How did that start out, and how is that going?
Yeah, so it started off with me attending one. I attended one, and I won't name who it was, but it was here in Los Angeles, and they would host these meets, street meets, kind of all the time.
Okay.
And I went one time, and I remember thinking to myself, like, my expectations were really high. Like, this is amazing. I might meet like some really cool people. Maybe I'm going to, get to network with some models. Cause I was starting off. I didn't know anyone. No model wanted to shoot with me. Right. I was learning how to still use a camera, and I was like, okay, let's go. And I remember going, and I was like, I felt like this could have been done better. And like, if I did it, like, oh, I would have people, doing this and that, and it would be from this time to this time, this location. And I remember thinking, well, maybe I should do it. Like, I shouldn't just kind of criticize somebody else. Like, then I should come up with a solution. And so early on, I would just kind of put on my Instagram story, hey, I'm going to go catch sunset here. And 2-3 people would come. And then 5-10 people would come. And then 20 people would come. I started working with a great group of friends that started off as like the shooters community. So there's UK shooters, there was LA shooters. All over kind of the world, they have these groups where they start kind of photo meets. And so I got asked to come onto the team for LA shooters that ended up turning into SoCal shooters that ended up turning into Cali shooters. So it was just the whole state of California. Nice. And we would kind of host these photo meets.
How many have you done by now?
We did, at least 5 or 6.
Nice.
It's been a while since we've done meets through them, and that'll kind of play into the story a little bit. Just everyone got busy, which is great. But they were so much fun, and I really learned how to do them well with that. It was, we had a budget, and we had a lot of moving parts, but 5-6 people on the team, probably, maybe more.
How was it like monetized?
Yeah. So what we would do is we would get sponsors to come in. So Adorama would come in, Nikon came in, all of these different sponsors that we'd get, Nanlite, Lexar, they would come in, set up a table, and they would say, hey, we'll pay for the food truck. We'll pay for the space. Oh, okay. We'll do some giveaways. And we would kind of monetize in that way. And people loved it. I mean, they just loved it. And so I was just a part of it. I wasn't running the whole thing, but I got to learn and see a lot. And right after that, maybe 5 or 6 times that we actually hosted meets, it might've been more, but around there, people got busy, very successful. It was a great thing. And so a lot of my friends have gone on to do bigger and better things. And so we kind of stopped doing them as much, but I still felt the need in the community for community meets, photography meets, just a way to bring people together. And I was like, well, unofficially, I'll just kind of continue on my own platform, kind of with my own little personal brand, and started hosting some. And it was, I don't remember I think it was 2023, beginning of the year. It was raining, and I don't know what I was thinking, but I started posting on TikTok like, hey, I'm going to have a photo meet at Elysian Park, which is so funny that we just brought that up. And I marketed it in a funny way. I said, wouldn't it be funny if a bunch of people in LA just got together that were creative and just hung out for a day? And the video blew up. It got not blew up, but it got 50,000 views.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool, great. And a bunch of people said, yeah, we're interested, maybe a couple hundred people. So then I started posting about it more. Well, hey, maybe I'm going to do it. Hey, would you be interested in this? And it just grew.
Build in public, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so much so that I set a date. I did it all on my own. And we had 400 people come out.
Wow,
and
shit.
I mean, the park, that palm tree line street got shut down completely with people and models and cars unofficially. And the park ranger came and they were like, I mean, you're not really allowed to do this, but this is pretty cool. So be safe. And it was just it was crazy.
That's cool.
And that really started just a whole different side of my career. I started groups on Instagram. I had to start 2 that held 200 people in each, just these group chats, where people would communicate and talk about the meet and when they were going to go and when's the next one and do we need to bring anything? And hey, I'm a model and I can model that day. People at one point would start going to Dodger games together and go to the club on a Friday night together. Or, hey, I'm looking for someone that can, drive a picture car for me. Is anyone available? And someone would, chip in, and it just built community, which was super special. And kind of since then, I've just hosted more meets. Casually, I think people appreciate it. I personally don't monetize off these meets. I don't think I've ever really tried, and I don't think I really have the desire to try. It feels like a way to give back to the community.
Yeah, but I mean, never mind if you bring in a sponsor or so,
yeah,
right?
And
it's a lot of work you put in, and
totally,
especially if you. I think it's always good if everyone gets paid, kind of.
Yeah.
Because even though if it's free for people, if you make a little bit of money, you also are incentivized to keep on going.
Of course.
Even if you're busy, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you always have to choose, do I do some stuff for the community and rather make less revenue?
Yeah.
Or do I take on that project? And in
Absolutely.
ideal world, you can do both, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have done a couple with sponsors that, hey, we'd like to sponsor the event. And so people know that it's kind of me and them. And it's been so much fun, man. Like I love it. And I love meeting people. I think I'm a social person. I'm a bit outgoing. And at the end of those days, I'm just very full. Like, it just feels great. I'm satisfied to know that people got to come and meet other people like them. They got to meet models, people that own a really cool car. I mean, we've done all different types of stuff. And so it's a great networking opportunity for them. And I think it's built a lot of loyalty between myself and my audience. I'm thankful for them. And I think if I can provide some value so that they can kind of be thankful as well, it just feels sweet. Like, it's only ever been a good experience, which is awesome.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I love it. I love it. I love the journey. I love how it's going. Actually, I haven't been at one of the events, but I saw them all the time. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah,
like, I wanted to go and I couldn't make it, and this and that.
We'll do more.
I have a lot of FOMO actually. So that's good.
Yeah.
When is the next one happening?
I'm shooting for the beginning of the year. Normally January, February. I have plenty of time.
Okay,
as kind of the year starts, and so I'm gonna probably.
When in January?
We'll see.
Let's set a date.
I know. I gotta set a date. I'll probably post it, and the last one we did was like a Halloween one, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we did it at the old abandoned LA Zoo and had a bunch of models and a bunch of lighting, and it was just great. And I love stuff like that. So some of them are themed, some of them are just casual, like
nice.
On a Monday, I'll say, hey, Saturday night, I'm going to be here.
Let's go.
And then some of them are a bit more planned. And so I think I'm going to do a little bit of like a larger one, maybe cool. January, February.
That's nice.
Man. Yeah. I love it, man. I love bringing people together.
I think it's such a cool way also to meet people, right?
Yeah.
For us, it was super helpful. And I mean, I'm more on the west side, right here in Venice, Mar Vista, Culver City area. And at the beginning, I also didn't know too many people. We just also started hosting events with with New Trend Society.
Yeah.
The idea is build the biggest community of creatives worldwide, and we also did some events of like where we talked about how to create relevant content, like on the brand side, on the personal side, how to elevate your personal brand. And one thing is actually coming up, and glad you guys are listening. So if you're in,
little plug.
So if you're in Los Angeles on January 16th, we're hosting an event called Crush It, and it's about how to achieve your goals in 2025.
Wow.
Will be personal goals, business goals, for your brand, for everything, right?
Yeah.
And there will be like a small guide, like a worksheet you can fill out, and we're gonna talk about that. So we're gonna release the location pretty soon, but check it out on New Trend Society on Instagram or my personal profile. Yeah. So we'll definitely post about it. I think Kate and Demi, who are next door, they just shot a teaser for that.
Oh, how cool. So, you said January 16th.
Yep.
And it's going to be a creatives meet.
Yep, creatives meet. So I think that it's going to be fun. You should come.
I would love to come. Yeah, I'm going to put it on my calendar right now, actually. Yeah, see what I can make it.
That's good.
I love things like that. And you know what's funny is I think new photographers obviously want to attend things like this. But what I realize is a lot of people that started coming to the meets that I host are like established, seasoned creators, where like these are people that I would look up to. And I think they just appreciate like community. Like there's other people here that are like me and they get me. They understand the way that I think. I can talk about what I do and they get it.
Yep.
Which has been really, really cool. And so I think what I love that you're going to see too is in these meets, I'm sure, is just such a broad spectrum of people that you can reach and that you can bring together. And maybe there would be no other way for these people to end up in the same room together.
Yeah.
But to be able to be a part of connecting people, there's just no better feeling.
I love that it's nowadays so open and there's not too much gatekeeping anymore.
Yeah.
Unless it's a secret rooftop.
Yeah.
But besides that, everybody's pretty open. Like what filters to use, what LUTs to use, what camera. I remember when I started shooting, it was like maybe 2012, 14 or so, right? So when I shot EDM festivals, people were putting like gaffer tape on their cameras that people don't see what cameras or what lenses they use. So it's so wild, right?
It's so interesting.
It's so different now.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, yeah, it's this. Oh yeah, sure, I can airdrop you my LUTs, whatever, right? It's like everybody's very open. And my perspective on it is now give away the secrets and sell the implementation to brands. Because the secrets, you can get them anywhere. There are no secrets anymore.
Exactly.
You can look it up on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. And the question is more, do they get the people the learnings from yourself and relate Jesse Shoots to it?
Yeah.
Or do they get them from, I don't know, Peter McKinnon or some other person, right?
Yeah.
And then I rather prefer to get it from you, right?
Yeah. So, there are... You look at AI, like this is a conversation lately where people are really afraid of it. It's like, is that going to replace my job? What it won't ever be able to replace is you as a person and as an individual, and the knowledge that you have, the way that you can communicate with another human being, and like all of those things. You think of like live event coverage and stuff like that, shooting an EDM festival, all of those things, like that's special. And you have those experiences, those past experiences, and you're able to pass along advice and tips and tricks and wisdom and knowledge that you have. And I think that is just so valuable. And so, yeah, when you can say, hey, here's my preset, here's, some advice, here's some tools that I have, and I'd love to follow up with, hey, here's the implementation of that. Here's my approach. Here's my mindset. Here's how I got to this point, right? And scaled it up, to be here talking with you. Those are the things I think nobody can replace.
Nice.
Yeah.
When it comes to the future, where do you see the whole thing going? I mean, you're working with a lot of cool brands now. You work with Toyota. Maybe you can tell something about your relationship there. What do you guys do?
Yeah,
there?
Absolutely. I've had the huge privilege and blessing to work with the Toyota USA team. And I just wrapped like 2 weeks ago a Toyota Latino campaign, which is special because I'm Hispanic. And so that was just like full circle. It felt so cool.
So they have actual subdivision for that?
They do.
Ethnicity?
Ethnicity, the whole thing. It's just so neat. I think they realize like there's a niche audience here and a large group, right? Not just like really niche down. So I've had the amazing opportunity to work with them for a couple years now. And it's just kind of grown. The amount of work that we're doing, how often we're doing it, the budgets, and just like bringing friends in to work with them. It's just been so special. And so I love working automotive stuff. It's so much fun. And so I'd love to continue to do that with them, but hopefully with other brands. I've done some other stuff with other brands. And
you have any dreams? If anyone listens?
Some dreams. I would love to. I think everyone right now wants to work with Porsche. And I would love the chance to work with Porsche, just to direct a piece. My friends and I, to be able to come in and direct a piece with Porsche, I think would be special. Yeah. Because I love that car. I grew up kind of obsessing over that car with my dad and my brother. And I feel like that would be super special.
What model?
Oh my gosh, dude, the 911 Turbo S.
Oh yeah.
No way.
It's
just, everybody cares about the GT3 RS right now, but the 911 Turbo S, for me, it was just so special. And so, I'd love to do that. Outside of even automotive, I've really enjoyed lately shooting like artists. And so I did some EDM stuff, which was so much fun. And I had the chance to do some hip hop shows and small legs of tours. I really enjoy that.
Nice.
And what's funny is in like the photography, videography, I guess, community, not a lot of people want to do that because it's a lot of work and it's exhausting. I mean, right? Probably just the deliverables, same night turnaround and all these different things. I love it. Like so far, the experiences that I've had have been great. And so I'd love to go on a tour with, a larger artist and be able to kind of perfect and hone in those skills. I think it's just like bucket list for me.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not even like about the pay or the money or, what people think about me. I just kind of want to do it and learn it and discipline myself to do it.
I think it's the experience you make. I started as a party photographer back then, like way long back, right? And then turned more towards events and also touring with some EDM artists, DJ Snake or so, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of big shows.
Yeah.
And it was always the cool thing about touring is you're always kind of a local. Wherever you come, if it's in Vancouver or if it's in Mumbai or in Sydney, the promoter who hosts the event is a local in that city, right? And then he brings you to the best restaurant and here and there and shows you around. It's so cool. Yeah. And I did a thing this year with my friend Martin Hörger. Okay. He's also a big artist. And I did just a thing for fun, right? We went to Seattle to Beyond Wonderland.
Oh, no way. How cool, man.
And it was like just wild. And, but it also reminded me of, oh shit, it's a lot of work. And it's very intense. We also did a podcast about that. You guys should check it out. It's Martin Hörger. And it was, I think the episode was from June or July. So it was a lot of fun talk. And
I just went with a friend. His name's Ivan. His handle on Instagram is ai.visuals.
Okay.
If you don't follow him. He's probably, we tease each other all the time. We don't compliment each other too much because we're buddies like that.
Okay.
But he's probably the best live events show photographer
ever.
And he's on tour with Zed, has been for years and years. And so he invited me up to San Francisco. Zed was playing, I think 4 or 5 like sold out shows in San Francisco, the same venue. He's like, hey man, if you want to come out, I'm going to be there. We can explore the city together and just hang out and shoot the show. And I was like, dude, I would love to. And so I went just for fun and I had a blast, but it was so much work. I mean, like I was blown away to sit and experience it, and also challenge myself in it, look back at the content and be like, oh, I would have done this differently. And just that process is so exciting. I think it's when you do this for a few years, you kind of start to do a little bit of everything. And I think what I've realized is I look for things that I haven't done yet. I look for new things. Like what is something that's fresh and exciting that I haven't tapped into before? And that was one of them. It was such a blast.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think when you know how to shoot an event, you can do basically everything.
Yeah.
As at an event, a concert, the light situation is most of the time shit, or it's hard to predict.
Absolutely.
It's changing all the time. There's not that much time. There's only 1 hour, right? Where the others performing backstage looks weird. Also.
Yeah.
So you have to work with what's possible. And that really helped me. And I think that's also a good advice for everybody who shoots out there. If you've done this, you also will be better when you work with brands.
Absolutely.
Because DJs and artists, they also expect quick turnaround times.
Very quick.
And if you deliver that and apply that in brand shoots, the people of Toyota and Porsche will freak out, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, they're going to love it.
It's just a skill thing and it's honing in those skills. You know, I look at this last Toyota campaign that we're working on right now and I made revisions this morning and last night, and I'm going to go home after this podcast tonight and send off like the final V6, whatever it is, right? Nice. And like send it off. And we wrapped the shoot, 2 weeks ago, and they're going to have final deliverables before the end of the month. Right. And I did a campaign with the state of Florida and like their tourism board. And
wow, that's cool. And they all just reach out to you via Instagram?
You usually Instagram, or I'll get an email, in my inbox. I've also developed a great relationship with a bunch of agencies.
Cool.
That's been really special. And I have a guy that I look up to. He's a friend and a photographer, videographer. His name's Kyle Cordova. Shot by Kyle on Instagram. Shout out, Shot by Kyle.
Oh, nice. He was in Miami last week.
Yes, he was.
The thing with Celsius, right?
That's right.
Yeah. We were chatting.
No way. Yeah. So he's a close friend. And I remember, I think it was late last year, I talked to him and I was like, dude, we've been buddies for a little while. I was like, can you be my mentor for like this next year?
Nice.
Like, I don't know how you do it, but you have a relationship with agencies and you're getting constant work and you're going to cool places, doing cool things, and you're still like perfecting your skills. And he was like, sure, ask me whatever you need anytime, like, hit me up. And so I've spent this last year just talking to him about it all the time. And quick question about this. I asked him a question this morning, like, dude, I need help with this audio thing. Like, what plugin do you use? And stuff like that. And he has currently a great relationship with multiple agencies. And it's pretty much the majority of his work. Covering live events and doing different things and honing in different skills, directing, producing, photographing, video, all of it.
Amazing.
And so that was something that I leaned into this last year of developing relationship with agencies. And I'm so glad I did it. A lot of work has come through that. So Toyota, state of Florida, and a bunch of other things, have kind of all come because of that.
Amazing. Jesse, thank you so much for your time. Loved every minute. I think we should definitely continue this conversation. I want to see how everything's going, and how the community is growing. Keep on going. And
thanks,
so see you latest on January 16th. Right?
Let's do it. Absolutely.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. Thanks, guys, for tuning in here on the pod. And if you like this podcast episode, you should maybe check out the one. We did one with Cole Walliser. He is a award-winning director, the guy who does the Glambot at the Oscars, like the super fast camera.
Oh, no way, yeah, with the big hair.
Yeah, the guy, he's my boy.
Oh, I got to go listen to that.
Yeah, so he was on the pod as well. So if you like this podcast episode, check out the other one with Cole. And see you guys next week, or listen. Tune in next week.
Do it, don't miss it.
On Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. We're also on YouTube with video if you want to see our beautiful faces. And if not, just keep listening. Thanks
Apple,
for tuning
Spotify.
in. Every Wednesday, new episode, New Trend Society, and peace out.